And we are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. What's going on, everybody? It's your guy Sam Factor here. I am pumped up for March Madness bracket building time. It's been a long time coming. I feel like March Madness has been around the corner for like the last 2 months. The Walter Picks team has been hard at work putting together a new bracket builder in the Walter Picks app this year. Last year, actually, we had no bracket builder. We just had these team by team comparisons. I'm going to be on live stream today going through a bracket and talking through some of the teams I like, some of the difficult decisions you're going to have to make in your brackets this year. March Madness is tough, guys. Last year, I rode UConn to several winning brackets in multiple different pools, but the 2-3 years before that, I think my bracket was basically done in the first few games. So it can go either way, but the key is giving yourself a chance at a differentiated enough bracket, depending on the size of your pool, to win. So I'll be talking a little bit about general bracket strategy. I got a few different teams that I like winning it all. Caden, what's going on, Caden? We are live on TikTok. We are live on YouTube. Going to be going through and making a bracket. UConn definitely going to win this first game. I do like FAU to beat Northwestern, largely because if I scroll up here, the team March Madness minutes for FAU, this is the exact same team that FAU had last year. Northwestern actually projects a little bit better in terms of win probability. They're the better overall efficient team this year. They were much better on defense than FAU was, but I'm willing to bet on the March Madness minutes, the veteran presence, the leadership on this FAU team. So yeah, I'm going to lean towards FAU in this one. To talk about the teams that I got winning, the teams with the best odds right now that I think should be in your pool to consider winning this year, UConn's number one. I actually like fading UConn though in bracket pools this year because I think they're going to be the most common pick, and they actually have a really, really tough road to get to the finals. They're going to have to play FAU likely in round 2, and I don't think that's a cakewalk for UConn. They got an 80% win probability in that game. They likely will win against FAU or against Northwestern, but once they go against FAU or after they beat FAU or Northwestern, they're going to have to play San Diego State most likely. I think San Diego State's one of the better 5 seeds in the tournament this year. I definitely think they'll beat UAB, and I also think San Diego State versus Auburn, whoever wins this game, is going to be a tough game here for UConn. One of the toughest Sweet 16 matchups that is going to happen is this Sweet 16 matchup for UConn. As long as San Diego State and Auburn don't get upset, I think there's almost absolutely no chance that Yale wins in the first round. That is not an upset I like at all. And I get that you have to pick some upsets in March Madness. I fully understand that. We're live on TikTok and YouTube right now, by the way, guys. If you're looking for a slightly better viewing experience, we can see myself on screen and the bracket builder on screen, and a little bit easier to view way. Come to the YouTube live. The YouTube live is always a little bit better of a viewing experience. Link to that's right in the TikTok bio. Shout out to everybody in the live stream right now. Appreciate you all. Yale is not going to win in the first round. I think that's one of the worst upsets you could possibly pick. I really think Auburn has a chance to win it all. Auburn is one of my favorite dart throws. If you're in a really big pool, I think Auburn's got a good shot. Even against a good San Diego State team, they have a pretty good chance to win in round 2, over a 62% chance based on the projections here in the Walter Picks app. This is from the Walter Picks app bracket builder, by the way, which is free to use. This entire comparison screen is free. You can find the app, the link to the app in my bio if you're on TikTok, or in the description if you're on YouTube. But Auburn ranks as the 4th most efficient team. This is adjusted for strength of opponent, everybody. This is adjusted for strength of opponent. The 4th most efficient team is Auburn. They're top 10 in offense and top 10 in defense. This is a very, very well-rounded team. They have beaten some solid teams this year too: Alabama, Florida, Mississippi State. I like betting on Auburn this year. I will have at least one bracket in an actual pool that has Auburn winning it all. And this is part of the reason I'm nervous about UConn. You look at UConn, Sweet 16, they only have a 57% chance in the Sweet 16 to beat Auburn, because this is one of the toughest, if not the toughest matchup in the Sweet 16 for a 1 seed. And then if they win this matchup, which I think I'll be taking Auburn in most of my pools because I like going against the grain. I'm in some large pools. If you're in a pool that has more than 500 people in it, even more than like 100 people, you probably shouldn't pick UConn to win because a lot of people will be picking UConn to win. I like going in with the mentality in larger pools that if the team I select wins, there will be very, very few brackets I'm competing with that will also have that team winning. That's the logic I rode to have UConn winning last year. That's not going to be the logic for UConn this year, though. They are literally the favorite of the entire tournament. They currently have minus odds to make the Final Four, which is egregious, I think. But also indicates they're going to be one of the most popular picks in the tournament. I don't hate picking BYU to get upset in round one. BYU relies on the three more than any team in the entire tournament. 41% of BYU's points come from the three-point line. That's the third most in the NCAA, and it's the most in March Madness. That makes them a really volatile choice. They could beat any given team if they get hot from three. They could also lose to any team, though, if they go quiet from three. So I don't hate picking them to get upset in round one. It's probably one of my favorite round one upsets. I don't necessarily think it's likely to happen, but I don't think I think it's more likely that BYU gets cold from the three-point line before they reach the Final Four than they get hot from the three-point line all the way to the Final Four. I could see it going either way, but I'm willing to bet against BYU in this year's tournament. I don't want to take Morehead State over Illinois. And Iowa State is the big reason, the second big reason. Auburn's the first reason. San Diego State, I think, is a pretty solid 5 seed too if they end up getting past Auburn and playing UConn in the Sweet 16. But Iowa State in the Elite Eight is another really, really difficult matchup for UConn. Let me pull this up here. We're going to finish this part of the bracket first. We got Iowa State going up against Auburn here. But if I were to just switch this to UConn quick to show you guys why I'm fading UConn, I like fading. If I'm going to not have UConn winning, by the way, I just think it makes sense to have them losing earlier than later. But yeah, even in this matchup here against Iowa State, UConn's only got a 52% chance to win this one. So they had a 57% chance in the Sweet 16, a 52% chance in the Elite Eight. That's not great odds, guys. That's like, what, a 30%, 25 to 30% chance that they advance past both these rounds, and they're going to be the most popular pick too. So even if you're right, even if UConn makes it to the championship, you're definitely not guaranteed to win your pool. Meanwhile, if you can bank on a 43% chance of an upset here from Auburn, all of a sudden you got a pretty differentiated bracket, I think, starting in the Elite Eight here. I think this is where it can go either way. This is why I like having multiple brackets. I'm going to be taking Auburn here in a lot of these pools. I think I'll probably have at least one pool where I have Iowa State heading to the Final Four. Iowa State has beaten Houston twice. Houston is the most efficient team in March Madness. So I am very impressed by that. Certainly the best wins here are much more impressive from Iowa State than from Auburn. I'd say their worst losses are also a bit more compelling, at least the first one. Auburn's worst losses really haven't been against bad teams overall. Iowa State has been beaten 10 quad one teams. Their strength of schedule has definitely been tougher. Auburn's got way more of the March Madness minutes, which I do care about. I do care about teams having experience in the tournament. Guys, we're live on TikTok. We're live on YouTube. Hit the like button if you're watching live on YouTube. Hit the like button if you're watching live on TikTok. If you are watching live on TikTok and you want to see my face and a little bit clearer view of what I'm showing on screen, come to the YouTube live. It's 2 clicks away. It's right in the TikTok bio. But this is a really, really difficult decision point for me here in the Elite Eight. Which one of these teams goes to the Final Four? Again, I'm fading UConn because I think they're going to be too popular of a pick in most of the pools that I'm in. And I'd rather differentiate by having them lose in the Sweet 16 to Auburn. If Auburn beats UConn in the Sweet 16, are they going to lose to a lesser opponent in Iowa State in the Elite Eight? Definitely could go either way. Switch from TikTok. Thanks, man. Fantasy Football Addict. Good to see you. Drake over Washington State. I bet everyone in the YouTube live left the YouTube live there for a second. I was trying to go to the Auburn State. I was on the wrong screen. I did take Auburn. Sorry, I did take Drake over Washington. This one's close enough that I'm okay to lean towards the upset here. We do have Washington with a slight edge in the Walter Picks app. Drake has a slightly better offense. Washington has a much better defense. Certainly the wins here from Washington are far more impressive than the wins here from Drake. I think the strength of schedule. Yeah, the strength of schedule here are really not comparable either. I'm not gonna compel you to take Drake over Washington, but I do want to try to mix in some upsets as I go along here, especially if I don't have either of these teams going far. I'm okay leaning towards the upset. I am in some pools too, which gives some points towards upset. So finishing out this edge of the bracket, I'm going to go with Auburn here over Iowa State to send Auburn to the Final Four. All right, on to the next region with North Carolina. North Carolina is another big favorite to win the entire tournament. If you're watching live on YouTube, guys, hit the like button. If you're watching live on TikTok, hit the follow and like button. UConn is the most likely team to win the tournament. Houston's number 2, Purdue's number 3. North Carolina is down at number 5 after actually Arizona. Auburn, by the way, is at number 6. And this is, again, part of the reason I'm a little bit hesitant to go with UConn this year after riding them to multiple pool victories last year. They have to go through Auburn. They have to go through Iowa State if they beat Auburn, most likely. And even if they don't have to go through Auburn, they're going to have to go through San Diego State, which is, again, one of the better 5 seeds. I think they got the toughest draw of all the 1 seeds UConn did. Despite being the best team, I worry about the competition they're going to have to face. Mississippi State, Michigan State, this definitely should be a really close one. I feel like I've gone back and forth on this one a lot. We got Mississippi State with a slight edge, but it's one of these weird scenarios where Michigan State actually beats them in every meaningful category. They got a better chance to reach the Final Four. They're more efficient overall. They're more efficient on offense. They're more efficient on defense. So I'm going to go with Michigan State here. The wins here, the best wins here for Mississippi State, that's pretty impressive. This is pretty impressive. Is Bama losing first round crazy? Yeah, I do think Bama losing first round is crazy. BYU losing first round. Yeah, so I do like betting against BYU. I talked through this a little bit here. I have BYU losing in the first round in this one. BYU is a better team here than Duquesne. Is that even how you pronounce it? Like I've never, every year in March Madness, there's a few schools that I've never heard of. I've never heard of this school before. I don't know if you guys have, but Duquesne, I think, can get an upset this year. And the reason I like betting against BYU, and the reason I'm okay with you having BYU going far, is they are going to be a really volatile team. They rely on the 3-point ball more than any team in the entire tournament. That is historically a team I like betting against when building my bracket. 41% of the points for BYU this season have come from 3. That's the 3rd most in the NCAA. That is the most in the March Madness tournament. To me, that means they're going to be very volatile. If they go cold from 3, they're losing. It also means, though, they could lose to any team if they go cold from 3. It also means, though, they could beat any team if they get hot from 3, right? They're really volatile with their efficiency from 3. That's why we've seen them beat Iowa State, who is top 6 in their odds to win the entire tournament despite being in the same bracket as UConn. We have them beating Baylor, Kansas this season. Duquesne has not beaten any of these teams. And they've lost to some bad teams here. They lost to Fordham. They lost to Davidson. They lost to Santa Clara. BYU should be favored in this game, and there's a reason this is an upset pick. But I like betting on teams to get upset in the first round that I don't think, even if they win the first round, have a very good chance to make it very far. Right? If I already think BYU isn't going to make the Elite Eight, the Final Four, then I'd rather just pick them to lose in the first round and get that edge against everybody else if they inevitably lose in the first round or if they lose early, and a lot of people having them go far. I think BYU, though, if you're in a really big pool, you could do worse than BYU going far. Again, they're a volatile team. 41% of their points come from 3. That's the highest rate in college basketball. All right, moving on to the next region. I'm going with Michigan State here, even though we have Mississippi State with a slight edge because they are more efficient on offense and on defense. St. Mary's versus Grand Canyon. I do like Grand Canyon as an upset pick here, about 24% chance of happening. They are definitely the worst team, but they've beaten San Diego State, which I like. 3 good wins here on the left from St. Mary's. St. Mary's is certainly the better team. The strength of schedule definitely scares me a lot, though, with Grand Canyon. Looking through this, actually, I'm going to change my thought here and go with St. Mary's. All right, we got Alabama and Charleston. Yeah, so I do not like this upset. Like, I would rather go with Grand Canyon over St. Mary's than Charleston over Alabama. Alabama had the 3rd most efficient offense in the NCAA this year. And look at Charleston's defense. They ranked 178th. And this is adjusted offensive efficiency, guys. This adjusts for strength of schedule. It's pronounced Duquesne. Thanks, man. Duquesne. I got Duquesne winning in the first round. Glad I couldn't pronounce that. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you, the Fantasy Football Addict in the YouTube live. So I would be I would caution you against picking Alabama as a team to get upset. Alabama is capable of beating any team in this entire tournament because of their offense. They do struggle a little bit defensively, though. They rank outside the top 100 on defense. So I'm not sure how deep of a run they're going to be able to make with that defensive efficiency. But they've beaten Auburn, who I have going to the Final Four. I think pretty highly of Florida as well. And their worst losses aren't too bad. They only beat 4 quad 1 teams out of 14 chances, though. So yeah, I'm taking Alabama in round 1, but I'm probably going to have them losing against whoever they play in the round of 32. If I took Grand Canyon against St. Mary's, I'd probably take Grand Canyon over Alabama too, but I end up going with St. Mary's there. So I'll probably take St. Mary's over Alabama. New Mexico is one of these weird cases. This happens every year. They're a favorite. They're an 11 seed against a 6 seed, and they're favored. They're favored in the spread, in the money line, and they're favored in our app as well. 61% chance to win this one. Certainly going to go with New Mexico. I actually think New Mexico can make a pretty good run here. I think they'll be a popular 11 seed pick because of all those reasons, but I'm willing to eat that. I do think they're straight up better than Clemson. All right, Baylor versus Colgate. This one's not going to be close. I feel like every year, you hear the takes of make sure you have some upsets, right? I think this year, looking at some of these round 1 matchups, like I don't think you need to force the upsets. I think you can build in the upsets as the bracket goes on. There's a lot of these 3 versus 14, 2 versus 15, 1 versus 16 matchups this year that are not close at all. This is one of them. Baylor is going to destroy Colgate. All right, we got Dayton versus Nevada. This is definitely a tough one. Another tough decision point here in the first round. 10-7s are always pretty tough. I do like looking at these best wins, worst losses, but you also got to look at how many quad 1 teams did these teams actually play, because it's not fair sometimes to look at a team's best wins and when they didn't even have a chance at some of the top talent. But both these teams had a solid chance. 12 games against quad 1 teams for Nevada, 7 games against quad 1 teams for Dayton. Both of them won about 50% of those games. St. John's didn't actually even end up making the tournament, which is pretty crazy. Defense much better here from Nevada. The offenses are actually pretty close. I'm leading Nevada here over Dayton. I think we got, Nevada also has a higher percentage chance to win. So yeah, I'm going with Nevada. I actually might toss a little bit on that one, money line as well. What's up, Kylo? How are we doing? I'm pumped up, Kylo. It's March Madness season. I haven't been live since week 18 of the NFL season, man. And I, as usual, Kylo, pretty burnt out after NFL season, but that burnout's all but gone now, man. I'm hitting a second wind, or really a first wind here in the NFL offseason, and it always starts with March Madness for me. All right, we got Arizona versus Long Beach. Again, there's a lot of these 215 matchups, 116, 314 matchups that are not going to be close this year. I would not get cute with this one. Over a 99% chance that Arizona wins this game. Arizona is near the top of March Madness in terms of the percentage chance, the odds of winning the whole thing. They're 4th. It goes UConn, Houston, Purdue, and then Arizona. They're not the worst pick to win it all. I'm definitely going to go with them in round 1. I'll likely have them going to the Elite 8 at least. All right, Houston versus Longwood, another one. This one's not going to be close. Houston is the most efficient team in the entire tournament. I do think it's very interesting this year. Houston, the number 1 most efficient defense in college basketball. We're live on TikTok and YouTube right now, guys. If you want a little bit better of a viewing experience, you can see me. You can see the screen a bit better. Come to the YouTube live. Link is right in the TikTok bio if you're watching live on TikTok. But I do think it's very interesting. Houston had the most efficient defense in the NCAA. Number 1 in overall efficiency when you combine offense and defense. Number 1 in defensive efficiency. And then you look at the team, and this is a pretty short team. I mean, they do not have a lot of height on this team. I mean, I'm definitely, the size of the dog in the fight, not the size of the fight in the dog type of person. But I'm very intrigued by Houston. The number 1 most efficient defense, also one of the shortest average heights across all of the teams in March Madness. I mean, really interesting combo there. A really quick team that makes up for its height in its tenacity and quickness on the defensive side of the ball. They have absolutely no chance to lose in round 1. Guys, we're not going to see a 1 seed lose in this tournament. We saw a 1 seed lose last tournament for the first time. That was Purdue, and I would be shocked if they lost as a 1 seed 2 straight years. And Houston certainly is not losing. Again, over a 99.5% chance Houston wins. So I would not get cute with the 1 versus 16 seeds. All right, Nebraska versus Texas A&M here, the 8 versus the 9s. I'm going with Nebraska here. They win in every meaningful category. Better win probability, better chance to make the Final Four. Overall, more efficient. More efficient offense, more efficient defense. They beat Purdue, Wisconsin, and Michigan State this year. They got some tough losses, but the worst losses here for Texas A&M are much, much worse. I'd say the best wins are relatively comparable. Iowa State, Tennessee, Kentucky. Those are some pretty good wins here from Texas A&M. They actually beat more quad 1 teams than Nebraska, but they also played 3 more quad 1 teams than Nebraska. So it's not exactly a 1-to-1 comparison there. They did have a stronger strength of schedule. They are a more experienced team in terms of March Madness minutes. They're the better rebounding team too. Free throw rate here too. Wow, as I go down here, Texas A&M definitely gets painted in a better picture, but I'm still willing to trust my initial gut reaction to this one. I'm going Nebraska over Texas A&M. All right, Wisconsin versus James Madison. I've seen this as a pretty popular thoughts on McNeese versus Zaga. We're going to get there, John. We're going to get there in the YouTube live. If you're watching live on TikTok, UMBC over number 1 Virginia. Yeah, that's not going to. That happened a while ago. Sorry, I maybe missed that one. Northwestern or FAU? Yeah, I definitely like FAU over Northwestern. FAU has the most March Madness minutes of any team, most returning March Madness minutes of any team. They're the most experienced team in this year's March Madness. I think FAU is definitely capable of making a run again. I don't really think Northwestern has the upside of going deep that FAU has. So yeah, I'm definitely going FAU over Northwestern round 1. It should be a good game. We got the win probability in the Walter Picks app, like right around 50%. But yeah, I like FAU for the March Madness minutes and the experience they have. So Wisconsin just beat Purdue in their second to last game. I think they ended up losing in their conference finals, but they beat Purdue in a really crazy game. They've actually beaten Purdue. They played Purdue really tight actually earlier in the season too. Their best wins are pretty impressive. Like Wisconsin can play with the best of them. They play really slow, which makes them a good team for upsets. Their offense ranked top 15. Defense is 43rd. Not quite what you want to see, but not terrible. Their overall efficiency ranks 18th best in the NCAA. They're definitely better than James Madison. James Madison still, though, has a 32% chance to win this one. So not the worst upset pick. I would be pretty surprised, though, after watching that Wisconsin-Purdue game. Like, I think Purdue is going to be in the Final Four. Elite 8 at minimum. I'm not someone here that's betting against Purdue. I know a lot of people are anti-Purdue this year after they lost in the first round last year. But yeah, I'm going with Wisconsin over James Madison. I think a lot of people, like maybe half, I wouldn't think you're like being that sneaky taking James Madison as an upset. I like going against the grain too on some of the popular upsets for that reason. I would be shocked if Duke lost to Vermont. Texas Tech versus NC State. This is definitely upset category here. I mean, look at the top 2 wins for these two teams. NC State has 2 better wins than Texas Tech has. They beat Duke and North Carolina, but they also played 11 quad 1 games and only won 3 of them. Texas Tech had a little bit more quad 1 games and won twice as many. Definitely better strength of schedule here for Texas Tech. Texas Tech, clearly the better team. They lost to Syracuse twice, Florida State. They won the ACC tournament, NC State. I'm going with NC State. I'm riding the hot hand there. Kentucky versus Oakland. I would be shocked. Again, I don't know if I'm going to pick a single 3 over 14, 2 over 15, 1 over 16 upset in my brackets. And you might say, Sam, you're being soft there. Like, stop being soft. You got to pick some big upset. Every year there's one crazy upset. But every year is not necessarily this year. We look, let me just go through some of these matchups again, because I got Kentucky on this one. I don't think there's a single one of these matchups, 3 versus 14, excuse me. We got Illinois has got over a 95% chance at winning. They're not losing to Morehead State. Iowa State is not losing to South Dakota State. They have over a 98% chance to win this game. These teams are not even in the same league. And then we got Arizona, who, again, they're top 5, I think I said, in odds to win the entire tournament. They have over a 99% chance to win this game. They're not losing to Long Beach. Let me go to Baylor and Colgate. Over a 96% chance for Baylor. They're not losing to Colgate. If we go to the one we were just looking at, Kentucky, over a 93% chance. They're not losing to Oakland. And then Marquette is not going to lose to Western Kentucky either. Over a 98% chance here with this one. I think Florida will end up beating whoever wins out of this matchup. I actually really like Florida as a team. Every year we see a team from Florida make a deep run, why not Florida this year? I think they have a good chance to upset Marquette in that second round. Let me just peek ahead quickly as I'm on this topic of the 3 versus 4 teams. Creighton, over a 95% chance to win. They're not losing to Akron. And then Tennessee, St. Peter's. This is, I think, the most lopsided of all of these. 99.6% chance for Tennessee here. I don't think a single 1, 2, or 3 seed is going to lose in the first round this year. I'll eat my words if that ends up happening. But yeah, I'm not getting cute in any of my brackets with 1, 2, or 3 seeds in round 1. I'm fine having them lose in round 2. I will have some upsets from 4, 5, 6, 7 seeds. I think at the end of the day, at least in some of my brackets, I'll make a couple of them. Okay, you're wrong. Yeah, Jackson, we'll see. We will see. But I'm not willing to really bet against teams that have over a 95% chance to win and are better in every single statistical category by a lot than their opposing teams. I think this year there are just more lopsided 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15, 3 versus 14 matchups than we've seen in the past. Like historically, I feel like every year there's at least one of those matchups that's like, this one's actually not that far off from happening. There's not one of those, in my opinion, this year. Utah State versus TCU. I actually think TCU's favored in this game. We got Utah State favored in the Walter Picks app, despite being a little bit less efficient offensively and a lot less efficient defensively. We look at some of the wins too from TCU, and it's not surprising that TCU is favored over Utah State. They're a bit better of a defensive rebounding team. Assist turnover ratio is a bit better. Free throw rate is actually really high. This is a really high free throw rate. I actually care a lot about free throw rate. I think getting to the foul line not only helps you score points, but also if you can get certain teams in foul trouble, they can get into a really difficult situation. Don't sleep on Oakland. Trey Townsend is him. Yeah, so Oakland was one of those teams I was just bashing, I think. Let me pull this back up. I am going to go Utah State over TCU, though, because I don't think many people are going to take that. And we're projecting them to have a better chance to win that game than the market. Yeah, so Kentucky versus Oakland, you're saying don't sleep on Oakland here. They have about a 6% chance to win, which is actually one of the higher percentage chances to win of all the 14 seeds. That actually might have been the highest percentage. Of any 14, 15, 16 seed, I actually think we have Oakland with the highest percentage chance. It's only 6%, though. You're saying Trey Townsend is him. Let's take a look at Trey. I'm probably not saying his name right. Trey Townsend. 36 minutes a game, so he doesn't come off the floor. 17 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, plus over a steal. Pretty high up there in block. Yeah, I mean, this guy's a beast. Over 34% from 3. Do they have a second guy, though? Like, Kentucky is good, guys. Kentucky is also really athletic on the defensive side of the ball. Look at all these guys averaging close to a steal or over a steal a game, around a block a game on Kentucky. I'm not sure a team with only one stud is going to be able to beat Kentucky. I'm going with Kentucky. I'm not taking a single 14 or worse seed to win in the first round. Call me soft. Call me wrong. I'm not going to be persuaded against it this year. I don't think any of those games, I think the vast majority of those games are not going to be close. Hit that like button if you're watching live on YouTube. Hit the follow button if you're watching live on TikTok. I'm not here to talk you out of all upsets. Obviously, you got to take some upsets. We're going to see those as I go through this, the rest of this bracket. Kentucky is full of NBA talent once again. Yeah. And I feel like we haven't seen Kentucky be as dominant as like we remember them being. At least I remember them being growing up. People are a little bit fatigued with Kentucky being this team to make a deep run. They haven't made too much noise in the tournament in a little bit. But again, here they are with basically an entire team of NBA prospects. I don't see them losing to Oakland in the first round, as however good Trey Townsend is. All right, we got Gonzaga versus McNeese. I saw someone ask about this one, I think earlier in the YouTube live. We're live on TikTok and YouTube right now, by the way, guys. If you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live for a little bit better viewing experience. It's right in the TikTok bio. You're 2 clicks away. Either way, appreciate everyone in the live stream right now. First live stream for me since week 18 of the NFL season. I'm fired up, man. All right, we got Gonzaga versus McNeese here. And I've seen McNeese as a pretty popular upset pick. I don't hate it. Any underdog that has over a 20% chance to win, like some of these teams are going to win, guys. 20% is not a ton, but it's not nothing. It's definitely not nothing. Like I'm not talking about this one like I was Kentucky versus Oakland, where Oakland has a 6% chance to win. McNeese has definitely a real chance in this one. They were the best team in the Southland Conference. They haven't played anyone good, though. They played one game against a quad 1 team, and they won. So, I mean, what do you want them to do? What do you want McNeese to do? They only had one chance to play against a quad 1 team, a top 25 team, or I forget exactly how it's defined. I can pull this up really quick. A quad 1 team is defined by home win against the top 30 team, neutral site win against the top 50 team, or an away win against the top 75 team. So yeah, it must have been this VCU game must have been where they qualified for that quad 1 win. They played nobody though. Look at the strength of schedule. 329th in the NCAA. How many teams are in the NCAA? Because this might be dead last. McNeese has played absolutely nobody this year, but they played well against nobody. Gonzaga is definitely better than them. I think Gonzaga is also one of the lesser 5 seeds in the tournament. So I get the love with this McNeese upset. There's 12-5 upsets every single year. Brian Durr, what's going on, man? Northwestern game. How we doing? Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button too. I do appreciate it. We're going through an entire bracket right now. So far, I already have Auburn in the Final Four. I'm betting against UConn in my brackets, and I already feel some of you pulling back. UConn is the most likely team to win the entire tournament. UConn has won like 37 of their last 40 games or something ridiculous like that dating back to last year. They are last year's reigning champion. We have not seen a back-to-back champion since like 2007 or something like that, like over 10, 15 years. Since we've seen a back-to-back champion. UConn's the best team in college basketball again. They were the only one of 2 1 seeds that didn't get upset in their conference tournament. I think they're on a really good win streak right now. The reason I'm betting against UConn has more to do with game theory about where they're at in the bracket than it does with UConn themselves being the best or not the best team in college basketball. They have the toughest route to the finals, in my opinion, of any team. UConn has the toughest route to the finals. They have to play either San Diego State or Auburn. Both of these teams, I think, are 2 of the better, if not the best 4 and 5 seeds in the tournament. I think Auburn's the best 4 seed. San Diego State, maybe the second or third best, but I think you can make an argument for them as the best 5 seed. I think Auburn wins this game. Again, I have Auburn in the Final Four. I really like Auburn to make a run here. And I think there's absolutely no chance Yale beats Auburn in the first round. So I also like betting on teams I think have no chance to lose in the first round to make it to the Final Four, because there's nothing worse than your Final Four team losing in the first round. So UConn has to go against Auburn or San Diego State. If it's Auburn, UConn's only got about a 57% chance to win this game against Auburn. So they're still favored, obviously. But 57% in the Sweet 16 is about as tough as it gets for a 1 seed in the Sweet 16. Then if UConn were to win this game, again, just to show everyone really quickly why I'm betting against UConn, they only have a 52% chance against Iowa State, arguably the best 2 seed in the tournament. Iowa State's, I think, 6th best odds to win the entire tournament on the sports books. Despite being in the same bracket as UConn, Iowa State is very good. They are very capable of beating UConn, which is why I like betting against UConn early. If I'm already not going to have UConn in my Final Four, I would rather go against the grain even more if I know a lot of people are going to pick UConn to win. Again, I'm in some big tournaments here. You got to remember to shift your strategy based on how big your bracket pools are. If you're in a bracket pool with less than 20 people, then you don't need to bet against UConn earlier than the Elite 8. If you're in a bracket with less than 20 people, you're only going to have like a handful of people that also pick UConn. If you're in a bracket with like over 100 people, good luck winning if you pick UConn, because you're going to have to pick UConn right, and you're going to have to pick a large part of the Final Four, Elite 8 in the finals right too, because a lot of other people are going to have UConn. So I like going with the team to win, that if that team wins or makes it as far as I'm predicting, I have a good chance to win my pool. That's what I did with UConn last year when they weren't a 1 seed. Again, I got UConn, Auburn in the Final Four. All right, going to Gonzaga, McNeese. I'm okay taking McNeese here. Let me look again who they play in the second. Yeah, I'm going to have Kansas winning in the second round anyways. So I'm going to go Kansas over McNeese here in this side. Kansas for Samford, 20% chance. This isn't that much different than the probability of McNeese in the matchup we were just looking at. Samford or McNeese, definitely one of these teams can make an upset for sure. I like the talent on Kansas, though, a lot. They have dealt with some minor injuries down the stretch, too, which I think is suppressing some of their data from this season. All right, South Carolina versus Oregon. Oregon, decent shot here for Oregon to make an upset. They are worse, though, efficiently overall on offense and on defense. So you don't love to see that. Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, all top 25 teams that South Carolina has beat. This game can absolutely go either way. Neither of these teams have any March Madness experience. Assisted turnover ratio, much, much better, though, here for South Carolina. I think I'm going to go with South Carolina in this one, not force that upset. We got to see which first 4 team wins here, but I'm going to go with Texas to start. I don't think North Carolina is going to lose to Michigan State. Definitely possible, though. A 27% chance is not nothing. I wanted to finish What do you guys want in the comments? You want me to go region by region or game by game here to finish this bracket out? They will be healthy by the first game. Their coach said it. Ethan, which team? Oregon. KU has injuries. Yeah, so I've seen the chatter out there about Kansas's injuries. I've been warned already in the comment section of a few of my videos on TikTok that Kansas is dealing with injuries. But from what I have seen and what I've read and the research I have done, all of Kansas's injuries, all those guys are listed as probable. And take this with the knowledge that I come from the NFL analysis background here, and I get very into March Madness from last night through the tournament. But probable to me means not injured, basically. From the NFL perspective, if you're probable, you're basically not even on the injury report. I do expect every single Kansas player to play in their first game. Iowa State embarrassed Houston. Yeah, I'm willing to still have some faith here in Houston, though, who was the most efficient defense in the tournament. Though I do in the NCAA this year, though, again, I think it's very interesting, the dichotomy here for Houston, who's one of the shortest teams in the tournament and also the most efficient defense. To me, that just makes me a fan of them in general because, I grew up short playing sports, but I think that's a very interesting dichotomy that I would not expect the most efficient defense to be also the shortest team in the tournament, or one of the shortest teams in the tournament. All right, we're going to go. McNeese is literally Houston. I do not think I would sign up to that belief. All right, let's go to Purdue versus Utah State here. I think a lot of people are not in love with Purdue. They got a 25% chance to lose as early as round 2. I think that's one of the higher percentages out there for 1 seeds. They absolutely are upset prone. They just lost to Wisconsin, who I think I had winning in their first round, but aren't like the best statistical team. They just lost to them in their conference tournament in a very, very close game that arguably they should have won. They were like a fingertip away there. But nonetheless, they lost. Purdue's the 3rd most efficient team in college basketball, though, guys. They're the 2nd most efficient offense. They're the 18th best defense. And they have the tallest player in March Madness this year, who also happens to be the best player in March Madness this year. And that is Zach Edey. And Zach Edey and this Purdue team, you got to think they come into this tournament with a really big chip on their shoulder after losing the first round last year. I'm willing to buy into that narrative a little bit. I also really like, and this has been talked about in a few games on the broadcast of Purdue that I've watched this season, they get to the free throw line really efficiently. And I think that is huge in March Madness, especially against some of these teams like we see with Utah State that are really, really dependent on just a small number of players. 1 or 2 of these top guys on Utah State fouls out, and all of a sudden this game is lost. It's lost. Look at the metrics. Big cat, go region by region. All right, we're going to go region by region here. So we'll finish Purdue's region. Actually, let's go up here to Houston's region first. So we already finished the top left region. We got Auburn going to the Final Four there. Now we're going to look in the Houston region. I forget the names of each of these regions, so stay with me here. Houston versus Nebraska. Houston just got absolutely embarrassed by Iowa State. They set a record for the fewest points scored in that game. Duke is 2 days into the tournament and they're 3 seeds. I have been obsessed with that sound. Then 2 seeds in the tournament and I'm 3 seeds behind. All right, we have Houston as a 28% chance. Actually, this is higher than we just saw with Purdue. A 28% chance for Houston to lose in round 2. And I want to look at this side of the bracket overall too, because Wisconsin, I like to look like game by game a little bit before making some of these picks. Because like I said with UConn, like if I think UConn's going to be overpicked to make the Final Four and overpicked to win the tournament in general, I'm a little bit more incentivized to have them get upset even earlier so that if they do, I benefit from that to the maximum. I get even more leverage over the field that has UConn going far. So that's why I like to look a little bit across the field before making some of these game by game picks. Duke, Wisconsin should be a close one. I do like Kentucky here against NC State. I'm going to have them advancing. I do also think Kentucky can beat Marquette or Florida. I like Florida a lot. I'm hesitant to have them like going too far because I don't know who they're playing as a 10 seed yet, Boise State or Colorado. I do think they'll beat both of those teams, though. Marquette is a slightly better team here than Florida, but not offensively. Florida was a more efficient offense, again, adjusted for strength of opponent, than Marquette was. Some really impressive wins on both sides here, beating Auburn, Alabama twice. Alabama had one of the most efficient offenses in college basketball this season. For those of you wondering, by the way, if you're on the TikTok live, you're on the YouTube live, this is all from the Walter Picks app. This entire comparison screen is free. There also are premium features in this tool, as always, in the Walter Picks app. We got you covered. If you are going to be serious about building a bracket this year, we got write-ups for every single team to give you even deeper insight into their prospects in the tournament. We also have this AI autofill feature in the bracket builder this year. I'm really, really excited about this. If you are someone who is just not sure about some of these matchups, like I might actually leave some for the end here and let AI finish it. You can decide if you care more about offense or defense. With this toggle here, you can decide if you want more or fewer upsets, and then you can complete your bracket in literally seconds. I'm going to cancel here because I want to keep going here, but I'm going to actually have Florida playing against Kentucky in the Sweet 16. I got Wisconsin over Duke. Again, I think that a lot of people are going to be liking this Wisconsin versus James Madison upset in round one, but I think there's almost no chance Wisconsin's losing. 32% chance actually is pretty high here. I think there will be more people that pick Wisconsin to lose than their likelihood to lose is another way to say it. They're definitely the better team over James Madison, and I'm very impressed with their performance in their conference tournament, beating Purdue, who again I'm pretty high on compared to consensus just in general. All right, we got Houston in Nebraska here. I'm going to have Houston advancing, and then we'll have Wisconsin beating Houston. I'm fine betting against Houston after their performance against Iowa State, even though they were the most efficient team in college basketball this year. They still have over a 30% chance here to lose to Wisconsin. I like the team that's riding the hot hand more than the team that had the better season, if I have to choose between those two things. All right, we got Kentucky and Florida here. I'm going to leave this one. Actually going to go with Kentucky. Man, this one's really close. Like, look at this. If Florida makes it this far, like they have a really good chance, a solid probability here to win some of these games. Their offense is a little bit worse here than Kentucky, who ranked top 5 in offensive adjusted efficiency this year, but their defense is even better than Kentucky's. And look at these wins. Again, they beat Alabama twice. They beat Auburn. I definitely think they're a capable 7 seed of making a run. I'm going to go with Florida here over Kentucky. And so we got Florida and Wisconsin here in the Elite 8. Florida gets a slight edge here over Wisconsin. I think both these teams obviously are a little bit risky to take into the Final Four. Both teams have some pretty impressive wins against Quad 1 teams. Wisconsin beating Purdue, though, Wisconsin is definitely capable of beating any team. And Wisconsin, to me, after watching them play a few games, they are the epitome of like a true team. There's not one player that dominates. And if they don't dominate, that Wisconsin struggles. Like they play really team basketball. Florida, on the other hand, a little bit more top heavy. Let's look at the assisted turnover ratios here. Yeah, a little bit better here for Wisconsin. I guess the assisted turnover ratio doesn't back up what I just said, but watching them with the eye test definitely did. A little bit more experience here for Wisconsin. We're going with Wisconsin here to go to the Final Four. All right, heading into the bottom right region here with Purdue. I do have Purdue beating Utah State. Purdue versus Kansas. Again, I know Kansas has some injuries. Didn't Florida just lose someone in their conference championship? Definitely want to fact check that. Let's see. Micah Handlogton suffers fractured leg in SEC final. So let's take a look at this on Florida and how impactful this guy is. Love that shout in the comments. This is why I need you guys. All right, let's take a look at this. We got Micah, 7'1" center, sophomore. He only played 19 minutes a game, but he's clearly the big guy on the team. 6.9 rebounds per game, a second on the team. I don't love that. Yeah, I definitely don't love that. I'm going to go back and change this to Kentucky. All right. I still think Florida can make it too. I'm actually going to go back to this to make it this Marquette. And we'll have Kentucky beating Marquette. All right. Thanks for that shout. All right. We got the bottom right region here. If you guys are watching live, yes, he broke his leg. Yeah, he's a starter, but he only plays 19 minutes a game. Got it. He also 7-1 and is one of the better rebounders on the team. That's not great news for Florida. All right, we got Purdue versus Kansas here, South Carolina and Creighton, Texas and Tennessee. I only have one upset right now on this side of the bracket. All right, let's take a look at South Carolina and Creighton. Creighton is one of these teams that I think is pretty sneaky here. Top 30 in offense and top 30 in defense. Number 9 in terms of overall efficiency. They beat UConn back in February. They've also beaten Marquette and Alabama. South Carolina's beaten some good teams too. They're second in March Madness minutes too. Yeah, we're going with Creighton here. I definitely like what I'm seeing with Creighton. And then Texas versus Tennessee. A better offense here from Texas, much better. But the defense from Tennessee is number 3. They rank 7th overall in efficiency. They've beaten some very good teams. Both these teams have a lot of experience, over 600 March Madness minutes on the roster. Tennessee is just so clearly the better team, though. Not taking an upset, not forcing one there with Tennessee. And I am going to go Creighton over Tennessee, though. This one's definitely very close. And then we got Kansas and Purdue. I'm going with Purdue over Kansas. Creighton shoots a lot of threes, 39% from deep. They're not as reliant on it as BYU is, but I'd say a pretty comparable team to BYU in terms of the 3-ball. But I really am impressed that they've beaten UConn. This is one of UConn's few losses in like their last 40 games came against Creighton. So I'm going to send Creighton to the Final Four here. All right, we got St. Mary's in Alabama. This is definitely another tough decision point. I'm definitely this is like a two ends of the spectrum here. We got a very elite defense in St. Mary's. We got a not so elite defense in Alabama, but very elite offense here for Alabama. Gonzaga lost to St. Mary's twice. They beat New Mexico. Not bad teams by any standard. Auburn lost to Alabama. They had 14 quad 1 games and they only won 4 of them. I'm going with St. Mary's over Alabama. New Mexico, Baylor here. We got a 44% chance for New Mexico. I really like New Mexico, man. They're definitely a very good 11 seed. I mean, they're literally favored over a 6 seed in round 1. They're top 40 in offense and defensive efficiency. I think San Diego State's really good too. I'm impressed they've beaten them twice. Certainly these are not as impressive as the BYU wins, though. As the Baylor wins. More experienced team is Baylor. More shots from 3 is Baylor. The free throw rate's really high for Baylor too. I'm going with Baylor over New Mexico. And then Arizona and Nevada. Texas Tech versus NC State. We'll get to that one in a second. %37 chance is not awful. Arizona is definitely one of the better teams, though. Again, they're near the top in odds to win the entire tournament. They're 4th. It goes UConn, Houston, Purdue, and then Arizona. UConn, Houston, Purdue, and Arizona. I already have UConn and Houston losing in this bracket. I still have Purdue and Arizona alive. I have Auburn making it to the Final Four. They rank 6th in those odds. North Carolina ranks 5th. I'm going with Arizona here against Nevada. All right, we got St. Mary's versus North Carolina. I definitely think St. Mary's is capable in this game. We have them at a 44% chance to win. They're also pretty clearly the worst team here. I like North Carolina a lot too. I'm definitely a fan of RJ Davis. He's in his senior year too. Feels like he's one of those guys that always steps up in the tournament. St. Mary's better rebounding team here for sure. That could definitely pose some problems here for North Carolina. But their strength of schedule is also so much easier than North Carolina. We look at the wins here. They beat Duke twice. They beat Tennessee. They had some tough losses, though, as well. Yeah, I'm going with North Carolina over St. Mary's. Baylor versus Arizona. We're back to let me go down to these again. Zona chokes a lot during the tournament. They got a lot of seniors on the team. So they maybe have choked in the past, but like I do value these March Madness minutes. They got over twice the amount of experience in March Madness than Baylor. Maybe a lot of that experience was experience choking in the tournament, but I'd rather that than no experience at all. Like I'm not willing to knock a team for choking in past tournaments. Like if anything, I think that actually is good experience. Like same thing with Purdue this year, right? Like they choked last year. If anything, I think you just come in with a bigger chip on your shoulder to not let that happen again. 10 out of 19 games against, they won 8 out of their 11 games against quad one teams. They only lost 3 games against quad one teams. I'm going to Arizona, and we're going to send North Carolina as the first 1 seed here into the Final Four. I only have one seed in the Final Four here. I actually had Purdue losing to Creighton. So here's my Final Four. Here's the Final Four I got. Auburn, Wisconsin, Creighton, and North Carolina. This would be a pretty fun Final Four if I do say so myself. Every team with at least a 39% chance to win here in the Final Four. I think I'm going to continue riding here with Auburn and then Creighton. An Auburn-Creighton final. What do we think about this? Wild, you're sending Wisconsin. Yeah, it is pretty wild. They did just beat Purdue. Kentucky's probably a little bit safer to send. They got a 59% chance. Or sorry, a 41% chance in this matchup with Marquette. Maybe I should be sending Marquette instead. I kind of have no faith in Houston though after their last game. Houston in their last game set a record for the fewest points scored in a conference championship game. I think it was the championship game. Yeah, this is so we have a comment here on YouTube. I legit have JMU upsetting them in the first round, and I think a lot of people will have JMU upsetting Wisconsin. I actually think that's going to be one of, if not the most popular 12 or 5 upset in the entire tournament, which is part of the reason I'm taking Wisconsin out of the gates here. But maybe I do need to slow my roll with them a little bit. They got over a 40% chance to beat Duke, though, in round 2. I'm going to mix this up a tiny bit here, and we're going to have Kentucky making the Final Four instead. Still Creighton, though, versus Auburn here in the finals. With Auburn taking it home. We've seen Auburn beat some good teams. Creighton, they're definitely maybe even a little bit more capable here. So I actually want to compare Creighton versus BYU. So Creighton ranks 12th in offense, 27th in defense. If we look over at BYU, who I was bashing earlier because they rely so much on the 3, they rank 155th on offense and 26th on defense. So they rely, I'm looking at the other side here. They rank 11th on offense, 11th and 59th. It's actually pretty comparable here to Creighton. 11th and 59th. So yeah, they're very comparable offensively. They both rely on the 3 a lot. They both rank top 12 in offensive efficiency, Creighton and BYU. But Creighton's defense is better. And Creighton has more impressive wins, too. That Creighton beat Connecticut. They beat Marquette. They beat Alabama. I think BYU had at least one impressive win here. And I do think BYU, because of the 3, if they can get hot from 3, they are capable of beating some really good teams. Yeah, they beat Iowa State, Baylor, and Kansas. Definitely capable to make a run. I also think they're capable, though, of getting dusted if they go cold from the 3-point line. And yeah, I'm taking ultimately here Auburn to win. All right, let's check out these bracket insights. This felt like a upset driven team. All right, we got Auburn. Only 2.8% of brackets are going to have Auburn winning it all, while about 5% chance to win it all. Pretty good. I definitely like the projection chance to be higher than the percentage of brackets that have them winning it all. It definitely makes sense for me, though, to use this bracket in a large pool. Consider using this bracket in smaller pools. Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty uncommon, though, with the finals I have, because I had both those uncommon teams winning. And only 8 upsets? Man, it felt like I picked much more than that. I guess I do have a lot of the upsets going pretty far, though, especially when you look at the Final Four. I do kind of like leaning like the upsets towards later in the tournament rather than early in the tournament. Again, I said this earlier in the stream when I started. We'll go through this, I guess, run through this really quickly one more time before I wrap up the live. Shout out to everyone that's live, by the way. Appreciate you all. I'll be live likely tomorrow night and the night before that, making a few more brackets for some of my pools, talking through some of the tough decision points here in the tournament. I can't wait for the games to start. I feel like this year And I know this is dangerous to say. I feel like this year, the 1, 2, and 3 seed matchups are really, really lopsided, like more lopsided than usual. I don't think a single 1, 2, or 3 seed is going to get upset this year. UConn, we won't even need to look at the 1 seeds. It's happened before, but it almost never happens. And I do think the 1 seeds are pretty bulletproof in the first round, at least this year. Certainly they're capable of losing in the second round. Iowa State is not losing to South Dakota State. They have over a 98% chance to win. Illinois, this is actually one of the more likely upsets here, I think. Morehead State has a 4.2% chance to beat Illinois. That's not zero, but it's certainly not likely. 4.2% is the most likely chance so far I've seen from a 14, 15, or 16 seed. All right, let's go to Colgate here. They got a 3.2% chance. That's really, really unlikely to happen. Arizona's got over a 99% chance to beat Long Beach State. That upset's not going to happen. We got Tennessee over a 99.5% chance against St. Peter's. They're not getting upset. We got Creighton against Akron, 4%. So that's second most likely upset is this Akron versus Creighton. I got Creighton winning it all. So that would be pretty disappointing for me. We got Marquette over a 98% chance. They're not getting upset. And then we have Kentucky versus Oakland, 6% chance. So this is the most likely upset. I got Kentucky going far too. Of all the 14, 15, and 16 seeds, Oakland versus Kentucky is the most likely upset, and Oakland only has a 6% chance. There's a 94% chance that Kentucky beats Oakland. They are better in every single facet of the game. I would not force 1, 2, and 3 seed upsets. I'm fine with having them get upset in round 2. I don't think I'd force round 1 upsets, though, for these 1, 2, 3 seeds. That's my time, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Guys, time is the most valuable thing we have. Thanks for spending some time with me tonight. Good luck making your March Madness brackets. Guys, the bracket builder in the Walter Picks app, almost all of the features we walked through tonight are free. They're completely free. Let me actually show. I'll create a new bracket to show the AI functionality. This is a premium feature. It's really inexpensive when you think about how powerful it is. You have a toggle here for upsets. You want more upsets, less upsets. I generally want more upsets because we know the amount of upsets is going to happen every year. It's like around 15 upsets happens on average every year. I also care about defense. I'm a defense wins championships type of person, so I'm going to toggle towards defense. I'm mostly in big pools, so over 1,000 brackets in my pool. I'm going to fill to the final round, and boom, in seconds, I have a completed bracket. And you can go back and you can tweak this bracket as you want. This bracket has Iowa State winning the national championship. Again, good to see that they have a better projected odds than the percentage of brackets that will have them actually winning it all. I do think Iowa State's a pretty good pick. A similar reason for Auburn, also on the side of the bracket with UConn. I like, again, betting against UConn. They have a really tough road to the finals and to win the tournament. We got Alabama, Kansas, Marquette, and Iowa State in the final 4 of this bracket. This is definitely a differentiated one, and 11 total upsets here as well. Just showing off the AI functionality here. If you are someone who is unsure about some of the picks, but has high confidence in others, you can use this. Or if you just want to quickly generate a bracket and then build from there, you can also use this as well. Every bracket you make will be different, but it will all use really, really good projections in terms of win probability, strengths, weaknesses, and your preferences in terms of upsets and offense and defense. That's my time, guys. Have a great night. I'll be back live tomorrow. Make sure you follow on TikTok to see some videos I post about the teams I'm riding to win my March Madness pools this year and some other fun March Madness videos. Have a good one, guys. I'll be back soon.